and also a real good place for backup. And then you can share the video to people who aren't on YouTube. I mean, on Facebook, excuse me.
Perfect.
So, okay. So we're live on YouTube according to what I've got. Okay. And there's going to be a song that plays for a second, and then I'm going to edit this just a little bit. And when his music will be live. So okay, we are live. Give some people opportunity to come in a little bit, you know. And FYI, those are the cameras that are sitting right over there. Good morning, everybody, and welcome again to Ear to the Ground 197. I'm your host, Bryan Foley. We're starting a little early today, and we're starting early today because we got a couple guests on this week. Some very important guests and some people I think you should get to know. So we'd like to thank all of our regular viewers, our new viewers, for tuning in this morning on this kind of rainy Saturday fall afternoon. You know, this is what it does in Michigan, so it is what it is. And we just want to thank you. We know we got football games coming on, and so we want to get in and get out so everybody can get to their football games. And that's why we're starting early, as starting at our regular time and carrying in. Matter of fact, for those of you who watch the show on a regular, I know that on that Saturday afternoon in the fall, everybody plays football. And put your comments into the comment box. And if you have a suggestion about a different time that you would like to see this program on, please let me know, okay? With that being said, we would like for you to type Y1, like, and then share. Y1, like, and then share. And why we type Y1 in is because I believe in Ypsilanti first. So I have Vaughn Armstrong. She's a candidate for 14B District Court here in the Ypsilanti, Washtenaw area, and what have you. And I got to be honest, how should I call you? You know, Ms. Armstrong, Mrs. Armstrong, Vaughn. Okay, Vaughn. You know what I mean. As you can see, I have a gray beard, and I didn't get this gray because I dyed it, and I come from a different time. So we want to call people by their, you know, their proper, what do they call those? The titles and everything like that. You know, I don't want to offend anybody, but I must say, and I want first of all thank you for reaching out to me, okay, and coming out and everything, you know. But I don't know Vaughn Armstrong, right. So we're going to start right there, right? Mm-hmm. When the primaries were over, mm-hmm. and I read the numbers that night, you had the most votes, okay, and you had the most votes between Carl Barr and Torio Feaster.
Yes, and okay. Stuart Collis.
And Stuart Collis. Mm-hmm. So when I looked at him, the first thing I said was, who is Vaughn Armstrong? Because honestly, I didn't even know that you were in the race. Mm-hmm. And it shocked me and surprised me because I didn't know. And I'm one of the people who try to make it their business to know what's going on in the areas that affect my community, south side of Ypsilanti, Washtenaw County, if you will. So I had never heard the name until that night. Okay. And so before we get started real good, let's tell everybody who is Vaughn Armstrong. Let's go right there. Okay.
Okay. And just to clarify too, it's for 14A.
What did I say? 14B?
14B, which is Judge Washington.
Yeah, right. Okay.
14A.
Oh, Arianne would kill me if I put that up there. I'm sorry about that. 14A, and you're correct.
Not taking Judge Washington's spot.
All right.
So I'm Vaughn Armstrong.
Okay.
I've been a prosecutor here actually in Washtenaw County for 10 years now. Before that, I did a little bit of civil law.
Okay.
But I wanted to be a prosecutor because I wanted to, in my head, I thought, oh, I could help victims and help them through the process and maybe give them some strength and know that there's someone out there fighting for them.
Okay.
And so I continued that work at the prosecutor's office here, first under Bryan Mackey, now under Ellie Savitt. In that work, I realized that it's not just about protecting victims. There's so much more that we can do, and hopefully we are trying to make a difference in our community, and that's by helping people and trying to reach their needs. And we do that with various programming and giving deferral programs and trying to encourage people and give them, I guess, hope that things can be better. So that's something I do right now just at the prosecutor's office. I'm also a veteran. I was in the U.S. Army Reserves for 8 years.
Okay.
I joined after I graduated undergrad, and I joined enlisted. I was trying to, my stepsister was joining actually, and she said, you should join and they'll help pay for law school. And of course, myself coming from pretty humble beginnings, I was going to need some assistance to pay for law school. And I said, okay, I'll do that before I start law school. And I didn't get to start law school right away because they deployed me pretty immediately. So I spent a year in Iraq as an E5 sergeant. And I'm also a mother. So I have a 13-year-old daughter.
So you're a buck sergeant.
Yes, that's right.
Right. I'm ex-military. You know what I'm saying? Right. Yeah. So I was E5 too. So, okay. All right.
So thank you for your service.
Okay. Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you. So I think that joining the military really helped me a lot. I came from, like I said, humble beginnings. My mom was in foster care for a period of time. She got married right at 18 because what else are you going to do? She didn't have anywhere to go. Married my dad. So she was working at Kroger. My dad was working at Ford in the plant. She had 3 kids right away. And then at one point, I was about 5, they got divorced. Okay. So single mom raising me with some kids, and we didn't have much. We were living in a trailer to a couple of apartments, moving around.
And what area was that in? What is that? Was that in Michigan, Ypsilanti?
Michigan.
Michigan. Okay, all right.
Not in Washtenaw County.
Okay, all right.
I'm trying to remember.
That's okay.
So young. Yeah. We grew up a little when we first got our first house was in St. Clair Shores. So I was in elementary school then. And things are, still very hard. She's trying to put herself through night school to learn a trade. She went to a school to learn about computers. Okay. So she's slowly, moving up there, getting better jobs. But we're still, living on hand-me-downs and, you know how it is. Just trying to make our way and working hard. And you don't see your mom very often because she's working all the time and just trying to put food on the table. So we at one point moved to Marine City. No one knows Marine City. Right. It's this tiny little town. We lived on a dirt road, very small community there. And I went to undergrad at Northern Michigan University. And that's when I decided, oh man, it was my mom's idea, actually. I'm trying to figure out what do I want to do with my life and my major. And she said, well, you should be a lawyer. And in my head, that was just unfathomable to me because, rich people are lawyers, fancy people are. I never met anyone that was a lawyer. or anything that was beyond higher education. I was the first person in my entire family to go to college. So I didn't think that I could ever do something like that, but my mom believed in me. And I think sometimes that's all it takes is one person believing in you. So that was my goal. And I said, if I'm going to be a lawyer, I want to make a difference and care about the work that I'm doing. So that means I want to be a prosecutor and work for the people. So that was kind of my path to get here.
Okay, that's great. You're talking about, my experience with the law, right? I'm an electrical contractor by trade. And at this particular time in my life, I was a city of Ann Arbor's electrical inspector. And Thomas Monahan, owner of Domino's Pizza, he started a school out on, I can't remember, it wasn't Earhart Road, but he started a school and it was called the Thomas More School of Law. You ever heard of that? So when I went in to inspect the work that was being done, I was offered a scholarship as being a Black person because of the relationship that I remember the guy's name to his name. His name is Dean Michael Kennedy. And he offered me a scholarship to go to law school just based upon our conversations. And they needed more minorities to go in there, right? And I allowed somebody to talk me out of going to law school based upon that I had a felony at that time and told that I wouldn't be able to become an attorney because I fell exactly with some misinformation. But anyway, I've always been interested in the law. And so I couldn't become attorney, a lawyer at that time, practicing. So instead, what I did was I watched every episode of Matlock. I watched every episode of Law and Order, and I watched every episode of Perry Mason. So I'm qualified to pass the bar. I'm just kidding. Okay.
You're good.
So I'm good, right? You know what I'm saying? So I know a little something about the law. But anyway, so I endorse and support Carl Barr. Okay. And he knows that he's right over there on that table over there. He brought me a little cup and everything. It's Carl Barr. So I took it off the table today. But even though I support and endorse Carl Barr, I invite anyone who is an opponent of the people that I support to this chair. And I really do, because I don't discriminate against them. But I give them that opportunity is because I want you to convince me, why should I vote for you as opposed to Carl Barr? Okay, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm not here, as we discussed before, this isn't the embarrassment show, call out show and stuff like that, because Carl presented a very good case to me. So it's Torchio. And I'll tell you what, and Torchio is, from my, what I've seen, he's a very experienced, very knowledgeable, very qualified practitioner of law, as well as sitting in the judge's seat. But I'm telling you why I didn't endorse Torchio and why I endorsed Carl Barr over Torchio.
Okay.
Because he's a homegrown guy.
Yeah, he's from Ipsy.
He's from Ipsy. So I started right there first. And then he and I talked, and I asked him about his policies and what he thought and stuff like this. And that was very important to me, being homegrown, because sitting in the judge seat, oftentimes the judge has to look at litigating and mitigating circumstances and understanding the history and the culture of the defendant that comes before him, knowing some things, and then he has the ability, or she has the ability, to pass judgment based upon the entire picture. So I feel as though Carl Barr is better able to sit in the seat of 14A at this point, because he knows the landscape and he knows the community, from my experience, more than anybody else that I've seen him. And that's not just it, because I believe that based upon his experience, my conversations with him, looking back at what he is qualified to sit in that seat. So why should I? You convince me. Okay. You know what I mean? Make me call Carl up on the phone and say, because I've done this with other people. Okay. Make me call Carl up on the phone and says, hey, Carl, man, sorry, dog, but I got to go with Vaughn.
Right.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what's something that's, I'm going to give a little.
Go ahead, take your time. We got time. Plenty of tape in the camera. All right.
When we first got into this, because it
Okay.
was a surprise,
Mhm.
everyone was very surprised that Judge Tabby retired early.
Right.
And it was last minute, and that's why the four of us jumped on it, because if you
Mhm.
don't do it now, you'll have to wait maybe a decade to do it this
Right.
again. And so we all jumped on, and everyone said, "Oh, Fawn, this is going to be hard
Mhm.
because these races, they get mean,
Yes, they
and
do.
they
Mhm.
get rude, and people are talking poorly about you, and it's gonna get nasty." And I said, "Well, that seems crazy to me."
Mhm.
Right? We're
Right.
all professionals here. We all work together. Why does it have to be that way?
Mhm.
And we had conversations. I spoke with Carl and Torchio and Stewart, and I said, "Listen, at the end of the day, I'm going to finish this race, however it ends up,
Mhm.
with my head held high. That
Okay.
I didn't, violate any of my morals, and I didn't do anything that I thought was mean or rude to try to claw my way to this position that I want, that I care about."
Mhm.
And so actually our race has been very nice. We would talk to
Mhm.
we would talk to each other. We would do debates together, and then we would text and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, you did a great job. That
Yeah,
was a really good
I've seen
answer."
pictures of you guys, everybody together. So I
Yeah.
was very surprised at that. Yeah.
Yes, and
Okay.
so that's something that we've kept up this whole time of,
Mhm.
we're not going to talk poorly. We'll talk about ourselves and our campaign. And that's what I've done through this whole thing. And so I will try to talk about myself
Mhm.
and answer your question
Yeah.
about why I think I'm best for the position.
Right.
But I really don't want to just try to talk down on someone else why they would not be qualified.
I got you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's
But let me say this.
yes.
We've been around here in this particular community,
Mhm.
and I know politics can get dirty,
Mhm.
but in this community, because we've only listened to people tout the good side of some things,
Mhm.
that we tended in this particular community to ignore some of the negative things that people have been doing in office
Mhm.
for years. And then we just voted for the persons for name recognition because we didn't want to point out the shortcomings
Mhm.
of that candidate. So, I respect that.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
And because sometimes, we don't like to, Detroit politics and national politics, the Biden Trump situation, they're just slinging mud like crazy.
Mhm.
But sometimes a candidate may have some underlying principles and programs that are not good for the community. So I respect what you're saying, you get what I mean? So, continue on what you're saying, why we should vote for Vaughn.
Okay.
But there also sometimes I need to know, maybe I shouldn't vote for this candidate because their principles, programs, and policies are not best for my community.
Mhm.
You get what I'm saying?
I
Okay,
understand that.
okay, all right.
Yeah, no, and I met Carl, talked to him a lot through this. I think he's a very nice
Yes.
person.
Mhm.
We've both been very supportive of each other throughout this whole process. So that's been very, very nice.
Mhm.
I know that I didn't grow up here.
Mhm.
Like Carl. I lived where my mother brought me.
Yeah,
to
we're very
live.
territorial around here. You probably found out, right? Yeah.
But I can say that I chose
Okay.
to live here and to be in this community. And because I loved it so much.
Mhm.
I got an internship when I was in law school at the Washtenaw County Prosecutor's Office.
Mhm.
And again, like I said, small town girl here, dirt roads. I was very nervous. I
Right.
said, "Oh, I have to drive in Ann Arbor. Oh my gosh. How do I park?" But I just fell in love with them. This was my dream job. I couldn't wait to get here, to move here, to be a part of this. And I couldn't get in yet. Like I said, I worked for a couple different firms, but my dream was always to get back here. And so when I found out that there was an opening, I jumped on it. And there was, I think, 130 people that applied for this job. And I couldn't believe that I got it. I was living, at this point, I have she was 4, my daughter 3 or 4 at the time. And now I'm a single mom. I'm living in a little apartment in Southfield. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe I got the job. And I was, driving back and forth to Southfield, of course, being late to daycare to pick her up. And my mom helped me, get out of that apartment and get into something here because I just love this community. I really want to be a part of it, and I've stayed here. In fact, I actually just got married.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, and because I went on your Facebook page trying to find a photo of yourself individually, and all I seen was you with your husband and everybody else. So finally, I had to go to Google and find the official picture to put on there.
Okay.
So congratulations on me. Okay,
don't really like pictures of myself. Okay.
Right.
Yes, so my husband's a criminal defense attorney, and we've been, it's a long story, dating on and off. But my whole point to him was, if we're going to make this work and get married, you have to come here. This is where my daughter lives. This is my community. This is where my job is. I made this my home. And he didn't really, he's an Oakland County person in Wayne County. So he finally said, okay, this is important to you. I will move. So, he finally moved here because to me, this is my home now. It's my daughter's home.
Gotcha.
So I'm making it mine. And as to just my qualifications, again, working at the prosecutor's office, I've worked in all of these courts. I've been assigned. So when you're assigned to 1482 District Court, which is where most likely this judge would be assigned to, is 1482, which is the IPSI court. You're there 3 to 4 days a week. You have all the cases, all of the dockets. And so that experience is just something you don't get just as kind of a defense attorney or even doing a civil law, because you're in court all day long with all of the cases. And you're just immersed in that. So that I think has been very important. So I've that experience of being in all of these courts, experiencing the dockets. Also, I have 3 years of appellate experience. I think that's very important for a judge, because the judge there is almost like a referee. I'm trying to make sure the law is being followed, right? We want to make sure people's rights are being upheld and that the law is followed, and make sure it's all copacetic there. And so doing appellate work, that's when you're looking at a case and someone's saying, hey, I don't like what happened here. I want another judge to look at this. So it goes up either to Court of Appeals or Michigan Supreme Court. And that work, you're really delving into looking at all the case law, looking at all statutes, and really figuring out what is the legislative intent, what is the point here of this law and this procedure, and was it followed or not? And so taking that deep dive on all of these criminal matters essentially is very important for a judge to have that knowledge and that experience when you're then put in that position of making sure that things are being followed to the law. I'm now currently assigned to circuit court. So that's felony matters. So these are things punishable by more than a year or more. And I think the experience I have there and like looking back at the district court is so important to doing district court work. A lot of my cases are young people involved in gun violence. And it's sad. It's sad. You're looking at all of these families that are ruined, not just the victim's family, but the defendant's families, everyone's. And we're looking at this, and I'm looking at my cases and seeing what went wrong here. And a lot of these people, they had a misdemeanor case first. They had a district court case first. And what happened? Because that was the opportunity to maybe reach that person. And that opportunity was missed.
That was my question I was going to ask you. I'll just put a pin in it right there, because you said, no, seriously, because that was the question I was going to ask you, was that you said your dream job or your job was to get into the office of prosecutor. So I'm kind of like, whoa, hold on a minute right there. Prosecutor's responsibility is to prosecute a criminal. You get what I mean?
Right.
So and I'm like, I said, wow, she has the motivation to prosecute a criminal. Let me hear why you wanted to be a prosecutor and help, and how was a prosecutor helping the people. So go ahead. Okay. All right.
Sure. And I don't think my dream here was, I can't wait to prosecute people.
Okay. All right.
My dream in law school, undergrad in law school, was I want to help victims.
Okay.
So
you're saying that the oftentimes the criminal perpetuator of the crime could be a victim.
Absolutely.
Okay, go ahead. All right.
A lot of times that is the case. And that's something, yes, I've learned and I've seen it. And that's something that we need to hopefully help.
Okay.
So the prosecutor's office, yes, they prosecute crimes,
Mhm.
but they're also trying to, it's not just that, they're trying to make sure that justice is going to take place.
Mhm.
And so that's justice for all parties involved, not just the victim. It's for the defendant too, because these are real people,
Okay.
real lives
Right.
that we're affecting
Mhm.
here. And so it's not about just punishment. People think prosecution is punishment. It's not just that. It's, wow, there's an issue here, and how can we redirect? How can we help?
Mhm.
And that's a huge responsibility and an opportunity that the prosecutor's office, and especially Ellie Sabat, has been
Yes.
taking on,
Mhm.
because these are these human issues, and this is where we can help. So again, not just punishment, but prosecution. So I wanted to be a prosecutor again to help victims. I myself was a victim of child sexual assault.
Mhm.
And I know how that affected me. Like I said earlier, I
Right.
thought joining the military was actually very helpful to me. And it was, because you don't realize how things that impact, in those formative years when you're a child, if you're not learning multiple things, how to cope with stressors, right? How to react to situations in anger, or in a way that's therapeutic, or are you acting out because of your own emotions, because of the trauma that you're either suppressing or reacting to, all of those things. So I felt that it made me kind of more of an introverted, meek person, and unsure of myself. And so I acted out too. And then I also, as a teenager, then I was arrested. I had a criminal case. It was, I was lucky to get a diversion program so that it's not on my record.
Was that PA 511?
Oh gosh, it was. I
don't
remember.
I told you I watched Matlock. All right.
Okay. But I have that experience, right? So I have that experience of, wow, I had this thing happen to me as a kid, and it probably wasn't dealt with, and I acted out, and I, got in trouble, and then I had to go to court, and I had to talk to a defense attorney and have a judge judge me. And this was very interesting. I got this deferral program, right? Terrified. I remember being terrified in court and not understanding the process, and everything looks like it does on TV. It's just very intimidating and scary. And then having my attorney say, yes, I got this program for you. We're going to keep this off your record. And I said, thank you. Oh my gosh. So I'm excited. I can't wait. I get in, and I can't hide my face. I've never been able to hide my emotions on my face. So I get into the courtroom, and I'm just so excited to get my sentence from the judge. And I'm smiling because I'm so grateful for this opportunity. And the judge looked at me and took that as I wasn't taking it seriously. And so he added on, I think so, a lot more community service and things because of my smile. And I just walked out so crushed. Oh, so again, that's something that I think I bring into not only as a prosecutor, but I would as a judge, having that real experience myself and knowing what other people are going through when they come into the court, that it's serious. This could be the worst day of someone's life. And they're there and they don't understand. They don't understand what there's law terms flowing around and process, and people are running around, and you're sitting there going, no one's explaining this to me, and I'm just scared. So that there's a couple of things. So one, knowing how trauma affects people, and then seeing how they act out and perhaps then commit crimes, right? So hey, how can we go in there and say, you committed this crime, you're not a bad person, right? I think people are ultimately good. They want to do good. They want to be good people. But bad things happen, and then there's reactions to that. So how can we address that? And we can do that through programming if they're on probation. Say, hey, let's give you a second chance here. Let's try to keep this off your record, but we want to help you. We want to give you maybe some either some therapy, or is it maybe someone has gone into substance abuse? Can we treat that? Can we just give them maybe even just a mentor, right? Sometimes someone just needs someone to talk to that they can relate to, that can explain things and make them have that perspective. Sometimes people just need to feel that they're they are a part of their community.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would be huge. That would be something I would love to implement in terms of probation if I was judge, is not just saying, hey, you're in trouble, do these 5 things and just I won't see you again unless you're in trouble.
Right.
And that's what we see. That's what happens. The judge doesn't see someone again unless they're in trouble. There's no follow-up. So one, setting a review hearing process where we say, hey, I want to see you again in a couple months. You're not in trouble, but I want to check in with you. I want to make sure that, is this programming working? Are you doing okay? Because there's also that portion of probation where someone's got their regular lives, which are already hard enough as it is. I know I was a single mom for 10 years. Even as an attorney, I was only making $35,000 starting off. So I've got bills, I've got childcare, I've got transportation issues, I've got to do all this. And now on top of that, already stressful life and responsibilities. Now I've got probation on top of that. So now I've got to divert funds that way towards programming, towards fines, towards perhaps drug or alcohol testing, right? So now I've got that on top of me and on programming and community service.
Okay.
How am I handling that?
Right.
So I think that there's a lot of things I can take from my experiences, one, as a victim, as a defendant before, and then also as now a prosecutor, where I'm seeing all these sides and I can see what works, what doesn't work. And that's that 10 years of experience of meeting in the courtroom day in and day out and looking at it and saying, okay, what can we do to help here?
Right.
And that's where we're going.
Great. Thank you. You share a lot of information.
Sorry,
I'm like, no, you're fine. Because this is what the viewers of Ear to the Ground 197 wanted to hear. As I said when you first came on, I had never even heard of you until I woke up and started reading the results of the election. And I'm like, oh, who the hell is that? That's literally what was said.
Yeah.
So this was there's been a couple of people texting me and actually saying, people who value my opinion, what do you think of Vaughn Armstrong? I've never seen her before, let alone to form an opinion. So what we're going to do is we're going to find out who she is on Ear to the Ground 197. So with that, Ear to the Ground 197 is brought to you by Blackstone Bookstore and Cultural Center, owned by Carlos and Andrea Franklin, as well as Kip and Athena Johnson. Blackstone Bookstore and Cultural Center is located on Michigan Avenue, right across the street from the Ypsilanti Public Library. Also, Ear to the Ground 197 is brought to you by Tracy Sweet Touch Production. Tracy makes a lot of these things that you see floating around in my office and stuff like that. And we're going to get back to giving away, normally we give away gifts and everything like that. I was real involved with some summer activities, and we're just really getting back up to speed on Ear to the Ground 197. So you shared a lot of information that people want to hear. My own personal experience, and one of the reasons why, and it's a question I'm going to ask you down, but the reason why I was so in support of Ellie Savage. Ellie Savage showed up on the scene, kind of like what you did. Nobody knew who Ellie Savage was here. And he'll tell you this. He kept showing up to Park Ridge Community Center. And I viewed him as another white male of a long succession of white males and females who come into the African-American community as the savior to the community. And I watched him for months. Everywhere he popped up, here his guy was. And he'll tell you. So I took him into a room at Park Ridge Community Center, and I asked him some very probing questions, if you will. I mean, very probing. He'll tell you straight up and down. And his final response was, he said, well, you're going to just have to see if I'm different than all those succession of white males and females who have showed up into our community as white saviors. And to this day, he has broken that stereotype and mold, and he's upheld everything that he said he was going to do in every promise. So I'm glad that you said that you worked beginning in Brian Mackey's office and now working up underneath Ellie Savage and Victoria Burton
Burton
Harris, who are good friends of mine.
Mhm.
Okay, we became friends through this process. You
Yeah.
get what I mean? My personal experience up underneath Brian Mackey, and I'll share this with you.
Mhm.
I got caught with less than 0.025 of a gram. I want you heard what I said.
Okay. Yeah.
0.025 a gram of powder cocaine.
Okay.
Okay. I received a $50,000 bond and a $500 fine. That's what I was charged with. Then, of course, it was reduced down to 5,000, 10%. So I was able to get out of jail with $500. So as a part of my sentencing was 1 year suspended sentence up underneath the PA 511, as I was talking about. Take regularly scheduled drug testing,
Mhm.
pay court costs, and report once a month. Honestly, I made every single court appearance, every single one. Good morning, Gail. Good to see you this morning. And yeah, thanks for the text that it started at 10. Started at 10 and not early. I was testing my equipment up with your nosy behind. Anyway. So anyway, I made every one.
Yeah.
My life had changed because I'm a member of an organization, and I try to keep my ear to the ground 19 separate from Supreme Felons Incorporated.
Mhm.
But I'm able to relate with people who have substance abuse issues based upon my own experiences.
Mhm.
Okay. So, but anyway, that's what I got. So I missed the last appointment. Seriously, the last one. I didn't even know until I'm sitting in Judge Betty Wiggins' courtroom.
Okay.
Okay. Morning, Joy, Taylor. Peace and blessings to you also. These are the people who are texting in. So I'm sitting in Judge Betty Wiggins' thing.
Mhm.
And the very first thing that the prosecutor says that he didn't meet the full requirements of probation. And I'm like, what the hell? I did.
That's crazy.
Missed the last one. So she demanded that I be remanded into custody at this time and face 5 years in prison. I don't have a record prior to that. I've got misdemeanors,
Mhm.
but nothing like 0.025 of a gram of powder cocaine, not crack. This was, I believe, in probably about 95 or something like this.
Okay.
And I wish I could remember the prosecutor's name. Fortunately,
Mhm.
I had a defense attorney who was an intern, if you will,
Mhm.
by the name now of Judge Arianne Washington.
Ah.
Okay.
Nice. Mhm.
She recommended that I go to prison right then.
Mhm.
Arianne Washington, and we became friends after that,
Mhm.
advocated on my behalf, just like those people that you see on TV. I mean, she defended me vigorously.
Mhm.
How dare you? At this time, I'm the city of Ann Arbor electrical inspector. At this time, I had advanced in my education. My family is doing good and everything and what have you. And she advocated.
Mhm.
The prosecutor got so angry that she literally broke her number 2 pencil at the advocacy of Arianne Washington. And I symbolize this as this:
Mhm.
break this nigga. That's what she did. She snapped it.
Wow.
So what I got out of that was this.
Mhm.
The $500 fine, but I got what I believe Bryan Mackey's office wanted all the time, and that was to stamp that felony on me. And once that felony got stamped on me,
Mhm.
as being a professional electrician, that closed so many doors to me.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
And you remember I was just telling you earlier about Thomas More School of Law wanted to bring me into there.
Mhm.
And that's why I got that misinformation that I couldn't practice law.
Mhm.
I went into a depression,
Yeah.
and my drug usage and alcohol consumption increased so much that I got involved much more in the more and more spiraling out of control, which led me into federal prison some years later. Okay. So that is why I was an advocate so much for Ellie Savitt, and hearing you talking about prosecutor in the roles of prosecuting people and understanding the litigation and mitigating circumstances prior to that. Yes. So what have you found? And what have you found that is different between working underneath Brian Mackey's office and Ellie Savitt's office?
One, I think has been great is we have so much more, we call it prosecutorial discretion. That's basically the freedom, right? I have the freedom now to do what I think is the right thing to do, where before we were stuck behind all these very rigid policies that completely handcuffed us, right? Where we're looking at a case saying, hey, I want to reduce this, or I want to give a break here, or something like that. And we wouldn't be allowed to. And it was so frustrating. For some examples, we had this domestic violence policy. So there's a deferral program. It's 769.4A, which is called 4A.
Okay.
So it's a statute that says, hey, if it's your first time domestic violence, you can plead under this and we can get it off your record, right? Just do your probation, like you said, get it off the record, non-public record, all these things. But they wouldn't let us give it out for so many different reasons. And one was, well, if there was prior domestic violence in relationship. And we would say, okay, well, if someone just said like, yes, maybe, he's pushed me before, or there was no prior convictions, no prior cases, no nothing, but just one general statement, we couldn't give it out. And then victims would come in, these complainants, and they would say, because they're in that relationship still, they have children together, they want their spouse to get this programming, they want to keep their family together, and or they're also maybe dependent on their spouse for finances, for their household, and for childcare purposes, right? We're family, we're working together to raise this family in this house. And they would say, I want my spouse or my partner to get that programming, right? And that's, to me, that's what we care about, right? I don't want to throw you in jail. I don't want to, punish you for something. I want things to get better because I don't want you to have to come back here. I want you to get that therapy and that programming so that you can deal with those stressors. You know how to react, and that makes everyone happy, right? That makes the kids grow up in a happier environment, right? So that the kids aren't growing up and then they're, repeating those behaviors. Because that's what we've seen too. Right. I've seen the children of domestic violence defendants come up, and now they're all of a sudden they're charged with their own cases because these are the cycles, these are the learned behaviors. This is what we should be doing as the prosecutor, coming in and saying, here, we'll help you. This is a benefit. This deferral program. This is a motivator. We'll give you this. Just go through this programming, right? And I've seen it help. I have seen like the results, and it does change. So we want that. So if we can give that to somebody, why wouldn't we? They would rather of us just say, they would rather the case get dismissed by the victim not showing up to trial than for us to say we've given this deferral program to somebody. And that was crazy to me. So there were things that we used to do, to try to get around that. So say like a high BAC. This is like the super drunk.
That's blood alcohol
content.
I told you I watched Perry Mason.
You got it.
Right. So, I'm just kidding.
So it's something that the state comes in, the legislature comes in, they're the ones that make these statutes, and they decided at one point, okay, so it's not just a drunk driving case, it's worse than that. So the penalties are going to be higher because you're 0.17 or above. So our office under Mackey would say, hey, you cannot reduce those at all. Right. Ever. So even with Judge Tabby, he would come in and say, all right, well, if the case gets waived to bench, I'm the finder of fact. I will find that you didn't prove that the BAC was 0.17 at the time of driving. So I'll find them guilty of the lower offense of OWI. I mean, so there's things that we would try to do at the prosecutor's office, try to
operating while intoxicated.
Yes.
Okay.
So now under Ellie Savitt, he said, I want you to do what's the right, the right thing to do. What's justice? We want to give people breaks. We want to give deferrals. We want people to have their records expunged. We want to help and make a difference, right? If we need programming, there's other ways to do that. So some of the cases are getting diverted. So there's not even a court case. We're not even filing charges. They're going to this other program, right? We have restorative justice. We have things like that. And that's great, because a lot of these cases, maybe they're neighbor disputes. And these are things that can be resolved by just talking it out. Where we don't need to have a criminal case, because the criminal case is only going to really exacerbate the negative feelings, and no one's getting along, and just one person's getting punished, and it doesn't help. I've been able to use it myself as a prosecutor, where, so we were talking about drug cases, and I can't talk like about open cases and too many.
Because I wanted to, I really wanted to go somewhere, and I've been really enjoying this dialogue between us, and we got about, believe it or not, about 10 minutes left.
Oh no. Okay.
so
I'm sorry.
No,
I keep talking too much.
No. People need to hear, right? Because they tell me all the time, Brian, you talk too much on the show. Let the people talk. But I'm saying we got about 10 minutes left. Okay. But you're really hitting on some stuff that I want to talk further. Yes. And the reason why I interrupt you, because I want to invite you back at another time, so we continue on. You get what I mean? Because I don't want to shut you off, but continue on that, because I was looking at that, and Arianne Slate is coming on at 11 o'clock.
Oh,
matter of fact, I just heard the door. You hear the door open, right? So that's her right there. Yeah. And so I just wanted to kind of give you on the time where we're at right now. You know what I mean? So because you started talking about substance abuse and situations, and there's one in the there's a very popular one that's in the media right now. It's national media. Okay. And I know you can't speak on ongoing courses, and I respect that. You know what I mean? But and she just walked by there. Okay. So I really wanted to get on that, and that's why I want to invite you back at another time. And I hate to sound like I'm rushing you, because I really want to sit down longer, and I wish I hadn't just scheduled one guest for today, right? No worries. But when saying, if you had to, in the last minutes we have on the show, I'm giving you the opportunity, like I said, first of all, to convince me why I should vote for you as opposed to who I endorse right now, and my viewing and listening audience, why you should vote for Vaughn Armstrong. I'm giving that opportunity last minute. Okay. And okay. I'm sorry I let time get away from me, but I was really enjoying the conversation. I didn't either, right? Okay.
So just one thing too, before I jump in, is that I had a case where someone was charged. It was a young person, I think they were 21, 22, something like that, but not really much of a criminal history, but charged with PWID, so possession with intent to deliver, right? So these are higher offenses, because these are where the statute is saying you're dealing drugs, you're not just using or possessing them, and so then the amounts, it goes up by amounts, right? Right. So this person had the next level up, so had a lot of cocaine, and charged with dealing a lot of cocaine, and they're young, and there's the statute, the 7411 through 7411. That's going to be the deferral for drug charges. So you get, your first one, you can get deferred, so you don't get the criminal record. But if you are charged with the delivery, you don't get it. Okay. Right. If you don't get it. That's what is under the statute. And I talked to my officer and I say, hey, I want to reduce this. And he said, well, you can reduce it to not the second tier of dealing, to the lower tier of dealing, but don't just give him the straight possession, because he was definitely dealing. And I said, okay, I get it. I look at it. But I talked to the defense attorney and I just said, hey, I know that you want this possession, and I talked to my boss, and I'm, hey, boss, Nimish, hey, this is kind of what I'm looking at. And he said, Ellie Sabat will support you in this decision. And I said, thanks, boss. Okay. And then I talked to the defense attorney and said, hey, your client here, he wants this deferral, right? And she said, yes. And this kid wrote me an email and said, I made a mistake. I really hope to get this deferral. I have plans for my life. I want to do things. And I said, yes, that's it. That's awesome. I said, yes, I'm going to give you that possession, because I'm going to give you this chance. to get this off your record. So yes, the cop didn't tell me to do it, but I said, this is the right thing to do.
Okay.
So for me, voting for me as judge is getting somebody, one who has that experience of, I've done all these cases,
Okay.
I've experienced them. I can recognize maybe when something is maybe a scary lethality factor that we have to look out for, but other things of, I get people's lives because I live the exact same things that a lot of people live through, of being a single mom, worrying about finances, worrying about childcare, having, gone through the court process myself, being a victim myself, all of those things that I take into, and I have that empathy, not only the legal knowledge and experience, but that empathy to look at someone and say, hey, you missed this drug test. Why?
Right.
Oh, did we miss this drug? Because maybe I had this. Well, that person's homeless. They're trying. Do they have $12 to pay for a drug test? No, they don't. So am I going to throw them in jail and say, judge, revoke the bond? No, because we have to look at the why and give people a second chance, because life comes in and you have to understand that when you're dealing with decisions that are affecting people's lives. So that's what I bring to the table.
Okay. All right. You heard it from yourself. Vaughn Armstrong, candidate for 14A District Court. And I want to thank you for your time, for coming and sitting with Ear to the Ground 197. I want to continue this conversation. Wish you success on your candidacy for 14A District Judge, and continue it on in the prosecutor's office, whichever way you go, which way it goes. I believe that you're an asset to the people.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
No, I'm just serious, straight up and down. I've sat across with many people. I talk with many people, and it doesn't take me all day to figure people out. I'm just going to tell you straight up and down. That's where I'm in. And so I just wanted to let you know that right now. So we have sitting out right now is our next guest, Arianne Slate, for those who you tuned in. Those of you on YouTube, I'm going to keep the feed live. I'm going to tune off for a second on Facebook, excuse me, so I can change some stuff up. But I want to thank you for tuning in. Okay. And I say all the time, Ear to the Ground 197 is brought to you by Blackstone Bookstore and Cultural Center, owned by Kip and Athena Johnson, as well as Carlos and Andrea Franklin. You ever been down to Blackstone Bookstore and Cultural Center?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So you know them down there.
Oh, yeah.
They have a lot of supplies and stuff like that. And also brought to you by Tracy Sweet Touch Production. She does a whole bunch of things that you can see over here. There's the glasses that you see over there and all kinds of stuff. We've been kind of not giving away gifts. Tracy had something, real hardship that took place over there. So, but we're going to be back on it when we're giving our guests thing. Gail, I see you out there from Ipsy, Can I Share, as well as my sister, Michelle Leaf. You've been getting, I see in your comments, Michelle, and I understand because that's how we become victims, stuff like that. And so I did see you out there, Michelle, but it's also good to see you out there in California up this time of morning, tuning in to Ear to the Ground 197. So with that, we're going to be right back in about 5 minutes or so with our next guest, Arianne Slate. And I want to thank you for coming on the show again. With that, as I always say, all power to the people. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
I saw on some of the other videos like gifts and things.
Oh, okay.
Nothing big. I just stuff from my garden.
Let me pause this then. Let's see what we got. Okay, I got some. She brought me some gifts. Okay, let me see what I got. Okay.
From my garden.
Oh, wow.
Gardening and some of my favorite things in the world.
I'm just gonna pull one up.
Yeah.
So from your garden. Okay. All right. Mom, I got some cherry tomatoes. I live right across the street from my mom. So, right. So, and we love it. So I'm bringing these cherry. Is these cherry tomatoes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Little cherry tomatoes and a couple of little smaller ones. I think.
What do they call those? Grape tomatoes?
I don't remember what they're called. There's ones that are bigger in there.
They're bigger,
but,
this one right here.
One of my favorite things in the world is a homegrown tomato.
Also, you grown tomatoes.
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. These are going to get 8 tonight. Trust me. Okay. All right. And with that, thank you very much. Okay. We're going to continue on. All right.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. We'll see you. Okay. All right. I'm just going to pause it right now. Ear to the Ground 197. And stay tuned. Y'all don't go nowhere. I'm just going to turn it off and I'm going to turn it back on. We're going to have Arianne Slate on here. Ear to the Ground 197, all power to the people. Whenever you're ready, I'm going to go to the restroom. Okay. All right. Okay. All right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good, and thank you for coming in.
Oh, thank
And I
you.
tell you, Vaughn, if you want to keep your mask on, that's fine, but I'm fully vaccinated.
Me too.
I just took a test right now.
I took one this morning
Okay,
too.
so I'm just letting you know where I'm at, okay?
Do forgive my voice is a little scratchy. I have asthma, and when
Wow.
the change of the season,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay.
it gets a little scratchy.
Okay.
So
Um,
do forgive me.
I don't know if you know where the ladies. Yeah, you did say.
I get.
Okay.
That's a nice little board you got there with
Matter
everybody.
of fact, I'm going to bring this board out right here
Mhm.
because you know Gail Summer here. of course.
I do. She's so sweet.
Okay. So we're gonna start out with this board right here. Since you brought it out, it's right here. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna start out right there. We're gonna set that
That's a
there.
good visual for
Okay.
everybody.
Mhm. That's crazy.